Today we're going to look at solving quadratic equations by factoring. We've done a few of these, we've even practiced factoring, so we're fixing to put it all together. In this particular problem, we're first going to set this equal to 0. When I look at all of this, I see that I have a binomial, and the first thing I need to do is get everything on one side and set it equal to 0. So I'm going to bring this 56x over and set it equal to 0. If it's positive on the right, it will be negative on the left. So I have 16x squared minus 56x is equal to 0. The first thing you do every time you start to factor, and I need to factor this binomial here, is to look for greatest common factor. No matter if it's a binomial, trinomial, whatever, look for the greatest common factor first. I do have a greatest common factor. I have 8x that's common. So I'm going to factor out 8x. 8 will go into 16 two times. I have two x's, one out, one in, minus 8 will go into 56 7 times, and I took out that x, close it off, set it equal to 0. You need to write equals to 0. And I would work vertically. Do not work out to the side. Work down. You're going to need those steps. Once you get here, I need to figure out what x is going to be if it's set equal to 0, so this whole term. So I'm going to set this monomial, 8x equals to 0, and I'm going to set this binomial, 2x minus 7, equal to 0. Solve for both. Divide both sides by 8. X equals to 0. Add 7. 2x is equal to 7. And divide by the coefficient 2. So when I write my final answer on the test in the blank, it would be x is equal to 0, 7/2. Again, it's customary to write that from least to greatest. So in this problem, I had a greatest common factor. You'll notice this is number 2. I should have said this earlier, but this is from that worksheet that you have in your packet, and I'm just going to use those numbers. A couple of them I'll modify, and I'll tell you those, but that's coming from the packet. That's why this is called numbered number 2. The next one, number 17 on your packet. I want to look at this problem, set it equal to 0. Well, I need to bring this negative 3x over. If it's negative on the right, it's positive on the left side of this equal sign right here. It also needs to go in the middle because I'm putting this in decreasing power. So I have negative 2x squared plus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. All I did was bring this over, change its sign, and put it in decreasing power. Now we're dealing with equations, and when solving an equation, I'm going to need a factor here, but I do not need for this to be negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and divide everything by negative 1. So when I divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1, it's just simply going to change all of these signs. So that's the concept of what we're doing, is dividing by negative 1, or we can just simply change the sign. So this becomes a positive 2x squared minus 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. And that's because I can divide both sides by negative 1. Now I'm going to factor. I have a trinomial. I notice that I have this 2 coefficient right here. As we practiced earlier, we're going to have to bottoms up if we have that coefficient. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 2. So I have x squared minus 3x squared minus 4, 2 times 2. Then I'm going to factor this trinomial. Set up your two binomials equal to 0. Don't forget that. The signs in my parenthesis here will be different. Go to the caboose, different. One's a plus and one's a minus. So I have x plus and I have x minus. Well, what are factors of 4 that subtract and give you 3? Of course, that's going to be 4 and 1. 4 gets the negative because it's the bigger number, and 1 gets the positive. You cannot forget that if you multiply in the 2, then you have to divide out the 2, and that goes here. Then always, always simplify your fractions. I can in a second, but in this first, I cannot. Hence where we get bottoms up. 2 comes from the bottom, up in front of the x, and that's 2x plus 1. I can reduce this right here, and that becomes x minus 2. Don't forget equal to 0. So from where I multiplied in, that's the trinomial I'm going to look at when I check. So if I'm checking, I have 2x times x, my first terms, that's going to give me 2x squared. Last terms, positive 1 times negative 2 is going to give me negative 2. So I know I'm right, but I'm not finished. Now you set each one of those equal to 0. 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. X minus 2 equals to 0. Subtract 1. So I have 2x is equal to negative 1. Divide by 2. And x is equal to negative 1/2. Add 2. X is equal to 2. So when I write this final answer, I have negative 1/2. Well, negative 1/2. I've lost my pen. 2. So that's going to be my answer right there. And to check it, it really is pretty easy to check if you wanted to. You can plug it in right here and plug it in right here, and the left side will equal to the right side. Plug in negative 1/2. Do the multiplication and addition. Plug in negative 1/2. You'll get the same, in this case, you'll get the same decimal. So they're easy to check. Number 29 on your worksheet. The first thing that we want to do is we want to get everything to one side, set it equal to 0. So the 6x is going to have to come over. Well, positive 6x becomes negative 6x. Again, we're writing this in decreasing power. Set equal to 0. We've not asked this, and I should have, but here I can see it. Do you have a common factor? In this case, I do. I'm going to buzz back real quick. In this problem, I'm looking at negative 2, or I'm here looking at 2, negative 3, and negative 2. I do not have a greatest common factor there, so I didn't take that out, but I should have looked for it. On this one, I do have a common factor. The common factor is 2, and I'm going to take out that 2. So 2 will go into 4 2 times, leaving x squared. 2 will go into 6 3 times, leaving x. And 2 will go into 2 1 time, set equal to 0. Now the 2 is the greatest common factor. It's going to follow all the way down. Sometimes this is going to make a difference and sometimes it's not. In this particular problem, I don't think it's going to make a difference when we get to x way down here. But it still needs to follow and I need to look for it. So I just keep it. And now I set up my 2 binomials because, let me back up. Because I have a coefficient, I'm going to have to bottoms up. So I've got to say 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is 2. So this is x squared minus 3x plus 2 times 1 is 2 equal to 0. This 2 is just following. Now we set up our 2 binomials and I look at our signs. Our signs will be the same. They will both be minus minus. Sum same. X minus, x minus. What are factors of 2 that add and give me 3? It's got to be 2 and 1. Then again, we cannot forget, we multiplied in by 2, we have to divide out by 2. And that goes right here. Out front, our common factor just follows along. So I have x minus 1, this reduces. This does not reduce, so 2 goes from the bottom up. So 2x minus 1 equals to 0. Now here, I have 2 binomials. Because this monomial does not have an x, I don't really have to worry about it. If you wanted to set it equal to 0 just because, that's fine. I'm going to set each one of these equal to 0. This one's not necessary because when I look at it, does 2 equal 0? No. So it doesn't even matter here anyway. Solving for x, add 1 to both sides and x equals 1. Here, add 1 to both sides, 2x equals 1. Divide both sides by 2, x equals 1/2. So when I write my answer, it's going to be 1/2, 1. And I could have checked it when I got to this point right here. X times 2x is 2x squared. It's where I start multiplying in. Negative 1 times negative 1 is that positive 1 right here. It's where I multiply back in. Now, just very quickly, I want to show you how easy this is to check. I'm going to use 1/2. 4 times 1/2 squared plus 2 is 4 times 1/4 plus 2, which is 1 plus 2, which is 3. And you can put all that in your calculator if you're calculating. Now I'm going to go to 6x. 6 times 1/2 is 3. Because these are the same, I know that 1/2 is a good answer. Now I'm going to try 1. I'm plugging it in right here. 4 times 1 squared plus 2 is 4 plus 2, which is 6. Plug it in 1. 6 times 1 is 6. Since these match, these are equal, both of these are equal, then I know both of these answers are good. So checking is not hard. We'll continue this on the next video.